Today on Practical Church Planting, we're sharing 5 reasons why New City Church grew 136% in 1 year. And before we get into the episode, don't forget Practical Preaching has released. Go to practicalpreachingcourse.com and get the course today because on Monday, the price is going up from $59 to $99. So invest in yourself, invest in your preaching. Head to practicalpreachingcourse.com.
Welcome everybody to Practical Church Planting, where in 15 minutes or less, we'll give you practical tips, advice, and encouragement to help you plant and grow healthy churches. My name is Brennan Drosian. Joining me is Dylan Dodson, and today we're talking about 5 reasons that New City Church grew by 136% in 1 year.
Yeah, so let me give you a couple caveats, then we'll explain the situation. New City Church is the church we're at from last November to this past November. We grew 136%.
Yeah.
2 things. Number one, sometimes you hear people say, other than God, what's going on in your church? Other than God moving. There is no other than God moving. It's literally
Nothing would be happening if that wasn't the case.
I mean, we were working just as hard. Mm-hmm. God, for whatever reason, decided to use New City to reach more people for him. So this is not like you do these things and this will happen. Okay.
Yes.
So this is not other than God, but this is practical church planting. So we want to say some of the practical things that we got better at that I do believe God and his providence made it more likely to use us because we were better at certain things.
Sure.
And number 2, this does not mean we are more faithful. For all you know, if you don't go to New City Church, we did a bunch of crazy stuff, and that's the reason we grew. It's not because we're actually being faithful. So growth does not equal faithfulness. It also depends on where you live. We live in Raleigh, one of the fastest, top 5, 1 or 2 or 3 every year, fastest growing cities in the United States. Let's just be honest. It's easier to grow than if you're in a rural town or somewhere declining. Okay. Yep. So don't expect you do these things and you'll grow. There's so many other factors beyond just what you do that makes this happen.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. I think some of the episodes we've kind of jokingly said, this is the formula to do this, and kind of as a joke, but this, I don't even think we wanted to include that because this is not a do these 5 things and you will grow by this much. It's just, this is what's been working out.
This is working out. So the other week I was just reflecting on we're growing. What are the things we've done better that, again, like I said, I think God's done. And so here are 5 reasons, practical reasons that we've gotten better at, that has made it easier and possible for people to come to New City, get connected.
Right.
Number 1, and we're just going to be honest, we started small. So let's just be honest. Last November, we averaged 53 people. Whether that is big or small to you, just like statistically speaking, 53 is not 5,000.
Yes.
So we didn't go from 5,000 to like 13,000 people. We had 53 people a week. This past November, we had 125 people. So we started smaller. I know percentage-wise it's still doubling or over-doubling or whatever, but it's not like we grew by 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 people. So there's that. I don't know if there's anything else that needs to be said about that. But
no, true. Just want to make sure our cards on the table. We're not saying that we grew by 10,000 people. Right. This is reality.
That is literally one of the reasons why we grew 136%, because it's not like we went from 5,000 to 20,000. It was just less amount of people.
Yep.
So that's number 1. Number 2, here are the more practical things. Our people put the mission first.
Yes.
Like, it's not just about us and the staff and the leaders and what we actually do. Our people are always flexible with our changes. I mean, I think maybe this is partially anecdotal, but I think we are well below average in the amount of people that complain about things that happen at New City Church that come here.
Sure. Yeah.
Now, not to say that people don't, and it's not to say that people don't care, but a lot of our people are just bought into what we're doing, and they're willing to put their preferences aside and try new things so that we can grow and accommodate more people.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really important to say, because you can try and do all these things, but if your people aren't happy about it, if they want things to stay the way they always were, you're not going to get very far. And so it is the biggest testament to our growth is our people's generosity, flexibility, and being genuinely excited having to go to 2 services. People were genuinely excited about that. Very few people were upset about that. People were generally excited to see more people coming and our kids' spaces being packed out. And auditorium, like, people are excited about it, so it makes it happen.
Yeah, and the awesome thing is that the more people are bought in now, obviously as we're growing more people are really bought in. And so when new people come, when they're surrounded by so many people that are so bought in, it makes it that much easier. It makes it that much easier and that much quicker for them to kind of dive right in head first.
And the practical side of this thing to do, you're like, maybe my people just don't like change. That is very true. So our people, I mean, we're a church plant, so people are more flexible than, if they've been in a church for 50 years. But that being said, there is a leadership component to this. Are you sharing your mission? Does your mission have to do with the Great Commission? Are you being honest about it? It is about Jesus, number 1, not in like a guilt trip way, but it's okay that people want to know people. That's why we have things like community groups. Like you want to create avenues for people to have relationships and all these sorts of things. But you do have to be talking about your mission and your desire to see more people reach Jesus, so that when more people are coming, even if people don't like the change, they're still excited about it and flexible to it because they know what's most important.
Yeah.
So if you want your people to be excited, you can't make them, but I would say, do you talk about it, preaching about it, reaching more people? That does help people get on the mission. So number 2, our people put the mission first, which cannot be overstated. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
Cannot be overstated.
Yeah, that's good.
Number 3, we've talked about this, couple past episodes, but my preaching has gotten better, and I share some of that, and we talk about some of the things that I've learned in the practical preaching course that, again, that launched this week. It's not all about preaching at all, and we'll talk about some of the other ways, and we're really welcoming that sort of thing, but it is better than it was a year ago.
Yeah.
I'm not amazing at all. I'm not great at all, but it's better than it was a year ago. And I do think that matters. People, again, we talked about this last episode, connecting with people. It's not your environment matters. And it's not just about preaching the gospel. It's about engaging people. I said last episode, last year, our first year, a lot of times I was good with the sermon being finished. Like I wanted to be good, but I was good with it being finished. Now, even though I've gotten better, I spend way more time on it, and I think way more about it because I don't just want the gospel to be preached. I want it to be engaging. I want people to be able to be moved and to learn. Yep. And so when your preaching gets better, again, it's not all about the preaching at all, but let's just be honest. If you're boring, people won't show up as much. This sounds terrible to say, but
No, and it's true. And that's one thing I think we've done a good job, yourself and kind of us as a staff at cultivating is not just trying to make sure that sermons are, whatever, obviously we want to make sure it's great content, but also that it's being delivered in a more engaging way. So we have this week, I don't know if we mentioned in this episode, but our practical preaching course, which is out this week, we talk a lot in there about how to create outlines and how to create flows of messages that are more engaging. And so doing these things, they help the communicator communicate better. It also helps people engage with it more.
Yes. Yeah. We talk about that. We've talked about previous episodes too about collaborating with other people.
Yep.
When you have your message done, for me, we share it with our team so they can give feedback and, write it on the whiteboard and all sort of thing. But preaching has gotten better as you become a better preacher. That will help people connect better. And like we talked about last time, you're not going to get better just by preaching more. So you want to invest in yourself. And we have the course that came out that obviously we believe in. But whether it's courses, listening to people, there needs to be some sort of rhythm in your life that you're actually training and practicing your skill of preaching. Because as you become a better preacher, people are more likely to connect and come back. It does matter. So number 3, my preaching has got better. Number 4, this is a big one. We have a better system of getting people connected.
Yes.
Way better. When we launched, it was just, it was just come and serve, and we'll get this groups things figured out, and partnership, which is what we call membership. There just wasn't it was like, what do I do? Yeah. And now if you're new, our follow-up process is better. We talked about something in a previous episode called Text in Church. You can find that one about following with new guests. We are way more proactive and have a way of people serving better. Our community groups are great. And so we have a system and a rhythm of launching groups and talking about groups. Like if you're new, we're still obviously always trying to get better, but it is way easy for you to connect and take your next step than it was last November.
Yeah. This is a huge thing, and it's big for the people that are coming. It makes it obviously easier for them to get assimilated, and it's honestly makes it a lot easier for the staff because we have a much more clear process, and we don't have to be asking people, did this person do this thing? Who followed up with this person? Kind of where did this person end up? And then we end up people fall through the cracks. And the more you can kind of not automate, but the more you can kind of develop a system so that people aren't being missed, the easier it's going to be for you and the better it's going to be for your people.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the reality is, when a new person comes, the sooner that they get connected, their chances of coming back skyrocket. And if they're just coming and coming and coming on Sundays for 6 or 9 months, maybe they'll keep coming that long. Probably won't.
Right.
Who knows?
Probably not.
But if you can get them connected, then they'll stick around. They'll get excited about it. They'll tell their friends about it. They'll take ownership, and then they come back, invite their friends. Then you reach more people. So number 4, we have a much better system of getting people connected. So whatever that means for you. And maybe you don't have, I've got so many things I got to work on. Just pick one. Okay, if you have someone new, how do you follow up with them? Yeah. Or maybe you have a follow-up process and it's fine. How do you get them to serve? Or how do you get them to give? If somebody gives, then they're definitely in. How do you get them into a group? What is one part of your connecting process that you can improve on? Because the easier it is for people to get connected, again, the more likely that they'll stick. Our process is way better than it was a year ago, which has led to this growth because new people come. Again, it's Raleigh, so new people come just because they move here or their friends here or whatever.
Sure.
I just remember when we launched, again, more of our story, we launched with 107 people. And then, by November, which was our smallest month, we were down to 53. Now, that's normal to have a big launch Sunday and then you kind of even go back down. But I do think back, I'm like, man, and part of this is you only learn once you do it. So you can't know everything a year and a half in that you do when you launch. But I was like, if we had a better system, we wouldn't have had to start. We would have had a higher baseline to start from, as opposed to having all these people that came, they didn't connect well, and they're probably never coming back.
Yeah.
You know, because they tried it and they didn't connect. So people connect better. And number 5, this is a big one too, is we know who we are trying to reach. And we've talked about this in previous episodes. We are going intentionally, specifically, and unapologetically towards young professionals, specifically to people that are 25 to 30 years old.
Yeah.
Like without kids, renting, and debt. We have this whole profile that we call New City Nick.
Yep.
Or New City Nicolette. We like men and women. We are not
Yes.
discriminatory. But that's what we're going after. Now, the typical church plant model is young families. And we found that we were doing all these events for young families and nothing was happening. And the 30 age decade was the smallest one in our church. And we're like, what do we do? So earlier this year, we switched, and then probably this summer started implementing it, and that's where we started to see this growth. Now, we don't just have young professionals that grow, but that come, the new people that come, but that is our biggest demographic that comes because we are more intentional in reaching them.
Yep.
And so whatever that is for you, look at the age demographic of who the most people that are coming to your church are. Do some demographic study within a mile or 3 mile, which we found the young professional age was also the number 1 age. And so we went hard after this age, which is not normal for most church plants to go after people who are young and don't have money and that move and aren't consistent.
Yeah.
But we just felt like this was a need in our area that God wanted us to, one of the ways that we could be a little bit unique. And it's made a huge difference.
Yeah, I would definitely say go back, especially if you're unsure about this, go back and listen to the episode that we do on it, or that we did on it in the past. So we don't go into a ton of detail, but one of the things we've seen is once we kind of focused in on who we're kind of aiming everything towards or who we're trying to reach, all of our different age groups have risen. You know, we've seen new people come that are in their 30s and are in their 60s and younger and college students. You know, we've seen kind of everything rise coincidentally when we started to kind of get laser focused on where we're headed.
Yep.
So I'm, for whatever that's worth, if you're sitting here thinking that's not biblical or we should reach everybody or I don't want to kind of focus on one group because then we're kicking everybody out. Sure, but that's not how we've actually seen it play out.
Yeah, and I don't know what the episode number is, but it is called Contextualizing to Your Target.
Yeah,
so you
pretty
go to
early on.
practicalplanting.com and you can search for it. But yeah, you can't reach everybody. You can't do everything to everybody. So hey, we go after this demographic, and the older people are really excited to see younger people here.
Yeah,
the younger people are inviting their friends, and even we go after young pros, and now next year we're starting internships with college students and that sort of thing. So now these young professionals that we're pouring into are now leading some of these other ministries in the church. And so I would just say again, who do you have coming? Who lives in your area? How can you be more specific? Some practical things that we did, like if you're watching the video version of this used to be a kids room.
Yeah.
So we went from 3 kids rooms to 2 kids rooms. Now we've got a lot of kids now. So now we've got a problem, not a problem, but we have a good problem to have because we're trying to figure out what to do with all these kids. But we took away a kids room, which is like a big no-no.
Yeah.
And our events, we don't provide childcare for them anymore. And anybody can come to them, but like we talk about the $2 trivia nights that we do. Anybody can come, but we specifically started doing $2 trivia nights because we know young professionals like trivia. It's fun. And so we're doing more things for that age range. Our series titles and graphics, we try to say, are they going to like this? We think social media is a very big deal. So we do a lot on social media and online engagement. Why? Because that is who we are trying to reach.
Right.
So it doesn't, and I always tell people, we're not trying to reach young people because it's like the sexy thing to do. It's just who happens to be in our area. If you live in a retirement community, how can you reach people in their 50s and 60s better than you are now? Who are you trying to reach? We started doing that, and we started to see a difference.
Yep, totally.
So again, those are the 5 practical reasons why New City Church grew 136%. We started small. Our people put the mission first. My preaching has gotten better. We have a better system of getting people connected, and we know who we're trying to reach. So thanks for listening today. Don't forget to get on the Practical Preaching course. You can go to practicalpreachingcourse.com. It's $59 for only a couple more days because on Monday it goes up to $99. And so don't miss out. Buy a Christmas present for yourself,
That's right.
another friend in ministry, and get
You
in on
deserve
that.
it.
And you do deserve it. Invest in your preaching that way. If you have questions, practicalplanting.com/questions. We'll answer your questions in a future episode. Until next time, we'll see you on Practical Church Planting. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Practical Church Planting. Whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube or Practical Planting, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, make sure you like or subscribe or do whatever it's telling you to do or should do on that platform.
And hey, if you are so tired of looking at our ugly faces, but you're not tired of listening to our beautiful voices, then you can find our podcast if you just search Practical Church Planting on iTunes or Google Play. Make sure not to just find it, not just to listen, but to subscribe.
Make sure you subscribe. Brian, tell them to subscribe.
Subscribe.
See you next time.